Hello, Northeast Ohio sports fans. It is me, Mr. Moohead. Sorry for these intermittent absences, but trying to get everything squared away here in time for football preseason so I can really be ready to do my thing as far as weekend programs as well as regular programs during the week. It's been a little bit tricky, but no complaints. We're getting our act together here. And I've had a lot of people traipsing in and out of the house, work people who are replacing appliances, people who are looking over all of the air conditioning and the furnace and the swimming pool heater and all kinds of fun things. So um, it's been a busy time, quite honestly. Uh, but I wanted to jump in and do a program because I'm long overdue, and I see that David Talevsky is joining me, and Hammer Time as well. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Hey,
Good.
man.
Hey, how you doing, David?
Good.
Good. We're it's hard to believe we're at the baseball all-star break. Not that anybody really noticed as the Guardians have been sleepwalking their way through the first part of the season. Um, Rick May is asking me, how close are you to home sweet home? Uh, as far as, I mean, how long is it going to take me to get this place to the kind of shape that I want it to be in? I'd say by the time that I leave here, it will be ideal. And I say that half jokingly, half seriously. What we're doing is we have an upstairs area and a downstairs area. The basement is a finished basement, but we're not doing anything with that at all right now. We're really getting that main floor living taken care of. And it's, I would have been further along, honest to God, if the appliances worked and all the stuff that were supposed to work that they said in the transaction would work that didn't work, or little stupid band-aids they put on things to pretend that they worked. But a wonderful fate awaits those. Uh, these people don't know the black cow of death. They don't know that piece of vinyl and what damage he can do. And I know their names, and I will invoke his name and let whatever happens happen. And that's all I got to say about that. All right. And hello, Mr. Giles. Can we get a video tour of the new castle one of these days? What I will do is once I get all the furniture in, and we did get a bunch more furniture that is destined to be delivered, I want to say sometime approximately 12 days from now. So once that happens, yeah, I'll take some unique angle shots so you still won't know where in the hell I'm at. But I've been all over the place, man. I've been up at Akron, and I've been over into Talmadge, over and up into Cleveland suburbs. Been through Medina, been through just all over the place. So it's been very fun. When I have a chance to get out, it's been a lot of fun. Was up in Fairlawn the other day, just doing my thing. I was even in Barberton, by God. I don't know why I was in Barberton, but I was.
Tucky.
Huh?
Barbara Tucky.
Yeah. I mean, boy, that's taken hard times in Barberton, huh?
Apparently so. I've never been there in my life, so.
Well, I mean, I spent the week there one day, and it was interesting. Somebody was trying to get me to eat Barberton chicken. And I'd never heard. Have you ever heard of Barberton chicken before?
Isn't that roadkill?
Yeah,
I don't know.
But how they get away with calling an opossum a chicken, I'm not exactly sure. A question for Mr. Moohead. Am I attending the Hall of Fame game? No, not until they induct me. and that and that'll tell you something. No, it's not like I have connections to be able to get into an event like that. And honestly, I just want to kind of comfortably watch it at home. I don't really want to, uh, again, I'm going to be out and about, and you'll know where I am at because I'll tell you where I'm at. And
Well,
if you want
I do have some connections for a quasi 4-tier celebrity like yourself that that could actually get you there if it's something you're interested. So,
a fourth tier, where would I be sitting, in the parking lot?
well, you might have to sell some popcorn. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Peanuts. Yeah, that's gonna be me. Yeah.
Okay, try this beer here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But no, I really prefer watching things from my home because it's you see a whole lot more. But I'll be honest with you, Jim. I was over at it's so funny. I want to call it Fawcett Stadium so bad because that's what it was back in the 70s. What is it now? Tony Bennett Stadium. I left my heart. Now, who? I don't even know.
It's the guy that used to own the Crew, own the Chiefs and all that. Tom Benson Stadium.
Benson. That's who it is.
Benson and Hedges Stadium.
What, David?
I thought Tom Benson owned the Saints.
He did.
Oh, the Saints. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He was a guy who danced.
Benson and I'm thinking Benson and Hedges. I think that's where I'm going.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
but at any rate, I was over at Tom Benson Stadium. I'm just fooling around, and I was walking around the grounds and just having a good old time. Driving through the city of Canton, which everybody should know if they've listened to the program, is where I grew up. And it was wild. I was driving and I just looked to the left, and you kind of remember and you don't remember where you're at, but you do. And I took a look, and something said to me, you better take a look to the left. And one of my father's businesses was right there on the left-hand side of the road that he had founded. And that really brings a lot back when you start seeing things that you remember. So it was, and it's not that Canton's a huge city. I drove through the downtown. I actually went to the first apartment I ever lived in, and it's still there. I couldn't believe that it was still standing. Still had the name of the man who owned the building, Mr. Summer. Mr. Summer, I'll tell you the best Mr. Summer story. And I know you're saying, where's the sports? And it's like, fuck you. The Mr. Summer, what's a guy? I mean, this was an apartment complex that was built in the 1920s. It had to have been. And I was on the third floor of this apartment. There was no air conditioning, of course. There was steam heat from a radiator. There was no shower, just a sunken tub. And I was 3 floors up. And I met my ex-wife in Canton. And when I met her, she was living with splitting rent with a girl, with a woman. And that woman had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend was surreptitiously living under an alias name. This is all true story. And he was dealing drugs.
It wasn't Fausto Carmona, was it? Okay, never mind.
No, it wasn't Fausto. No. There's a name change in that story. It seems to be right. But it was crazy. The guy was, and one day I was driving into the little parking lot, and it was right off of Cleveland Avenue. And there was one of this guy's friends and a guy who was half in his front seat, half out. And the guy was slamming his door on him. The guy was going Joe Pesci on him. And I found out that the woman she was living with, her brother had been in jail. And some people were out to get him. And it was a bad situation. And for those who don't know, my ex was from the Philippines. And she was on visa here, but she wasn't.
Mhm.
She had to go back. If they had discovered that she was living in a place with a drug dealer, they should have been deported. So I brought her over to the apartment and said, you got to get away from these people. It's bad news. So I kind of sneak her in, to the apartment. And some people who lived in the apartment saw her and told Mr. Summer that there is, but he comes up, and this is the greatest story I can think of. And he says, now, Mark, this is how he spoke. People in the building are telling me that they saw a Vietnamese woman. And where? I mean, ambush, They ambush Charlie every chance they get. And he goes, and he looked at me, he goes, you know something about this Vietnamese woman? And it's like, no. Of course, I knew what he was referring to. I said, no. It's my girlfriend. She's from the Philippines. And his eyes opened. And he goes, I was in the Philippines and so forth. For some reason, everything he said was and so on and so forth. He would fit those two phrases in there. So he was convinced that some horrible Vietnamese person was. But when he found out she was from the Philippines, everything was okay. That building is still there. And it had a sold sign. So somebody had just bought it. So I thought that was interesting. Went around the corner to my high school buddy, his house, and I was just driving all over the place. So it was a whole lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun since I've gotten here in the chances that I have gotten out. So let's talk about sports, because I am waxing nostalgic here. And I don't want to give people the impression that I'm like a weepy kind of cow. All right.
Did everything seem smaller though? It just looked different.
My dick. It's interesting that you would ask a question like that, because I was a lot slimmer the last time I was here, and
and therefore,
yes, I mean it's like a spatial kind of relationship thing. So yeah, my dick definitely looks smaller. Is there any other questions you have that you want to ask me?
Didn't see that one coming. There he is.
You're
welcome. You're welcome for that one right down the middle, by the way.
Didn't see that one coming. That's what she said.
But because it was so small. There. Okay.
It's exactly. I mean, it's like, but at any rate,
about sports. Now to sports with Mark.
Okay. I'm looking at some of this stuff, and it's like old news because there's no new news. Who in the hell is Thakarius Keys? They signed him a couple of days ago, the Browns. He's a cornerback. He's got to be maybe a guy who has a chance to make special teams. He last year was on the practice squads of the Texans, the Falcons, the Ravens, and he has totaled 7 tackles in his career. So these are just people that
training camp body. That's
right. You got to put bodies in there, and it's just like I'm looking at this and saying, who in the hell is Rashawn Henry? But he's a wide receiver, and to make room on the roster, they terminated the contract of tackle Joe Haig. They don't need any tackles anymore. Rashawn Henry is in his first NFL season out of Virginia. He was signed by the Panthers as an undrafted free agent in 2022, and he spent time in the Panthers and Falcons practice squads. Another guy named Thedford is out of Utah, and he is, I don't know what the hell he is, to be very honest with you. He is a tackle.
Thedford, something trying to say Redford with a speech impediment.
Wedford?
That's his name was Thedford, right? Yeah.
Thedford, yeah.
Wesley Wabbit, Wedford.
Wedford, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Thedford. And I don't know anything
Mhm.
about him. But that there's not much happening. I was looking at, I'm trying to get this together now. All right, there's Dalvin Tomlinson, there's Jordan Elliott, there's Maurice Hurst, there's Tristan Hill, there's Perion Winfrey, there's Siaki Ika, and there's Michael Dwumfor. Those are the people who are battling it out for the defensive line. All right. But we know the names. I don't think that Perion Winfrey is going to last for long, to be very honest with you. Talent might be
Yeah,
there.
he's done.
Huh?
He's probably done so.
Yeah.
They can't rely on him.
No, I mean, and Tristan Hill is nobody that I know. Maurice Hurst might have a long shot of making a roster. Jordan Elliott may, just on the basis of the fact that he was the top man on the totem pole for a while last year, which was not a great recommendation as it turned out, but he might still be out there. Siaki Ika, they have high hopes for. There's Myles Garrett. There's Zadarius Smith. There's Ogbo Okoronkwo. I mean, that I'm just going to call him Ogbo the Clown until he proves to me that he's a great football player. There's Isaiah Thomas the third, because the first two, one was really good. The other one was a left-handed shooter who sucked in Cleveland. There's Alex Wright, who's part of a big family, one of the Wright brothers. There's Isaiah McGuire, Sam Kamara, and Lonnie Phillips. Those are the defensive ends, but we know that Garrett and Smith, and they're saying good things about Okoronkwo. Isaiah Thomas is on the bubble, to be sure, as is Alex Wright. They've got to figure out, how the rotations go, and we won't know until contact starts. That's the bottom line with that.
There were rumors on Twitter. I think that guy Pete.
What guy?
Yeah, that guy Pete Smith on Twitter was linking that. His name is Pete Smith. He's on Twitter, but he was linking saying that the Browns should go after Aaron Donald if the Rams put him up for trade.
I was reading that too. Terribly. I don't get that. I mean, how is that going to happen? I mean,
you don't have any capital to trade for him. It's kind of, it would be one thing if it was a situation where they were so stacked and ready to go. But there's still so many question marks, and you're in a division that has Cincinnati, who's pretty dang good, and two other teams that generally, you don't know what. So that's one of those things where, is he the piece of the puzzle? I think the piece of the puzzle is a good linebacker. I don't know. They had Schwartz on over the weekend on their broadcast. I don't know if you get to hear that at your new joint here, but they have it over here in Columbus, and they do like a Browns weekend thing. And they were talking to him about all kinds of stuff. And of course, us fans are all, we're all getting jacked up. Okay. We're all fired up about all this stuff. But one of the things they talked about was, a lot of teams, they'll have their defensive line basically occupying players so their linebackers make plays. And his defense is allowing the defensive linemen to create their own plays. So like you were talking about Perion Winfrey, he's got that talent, but, can he keep his head together? Because he's been a head case ever since college. So, I don't know.
Yeah. And the wide receiver position, there's questions that are arising about this. You've got a couple of guys who kind of, for lack of a better explanation, mimic what Donovan Peoples-Jones does. And some of, he had a nice enough year last year, but, let me get to the bottom line. 61 receptions for 839 yards. That's what he did. And the fact that it was Jacoby Brissett who was throwing the ball to him. basically during the course of the season. But we've got Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin, who are speed guys. But Jordan Akins, who's a tight end by trade, but is more of a receiving tight end who's just a big body. And they spent time together. He spent time with Deshaun Watson. And then they drafted Cedric Tillman, a young player who's slightly 6'3", 215 versus Peoples-Jones, 6'2", 204 pounds. The question that everybody has is, any of this speed that we added with Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin going to spread the field in some kind of way that's going to make a Donovan Peoples-Jones a more important piece? Because the way things have been, the middle of the field is so congested, and part of me is afraid it's Kevin Stefanski's offensive scheme that just doesn't seem to get people open. But
well, the reports are out that Kevin's going to change the scheme and really fix it to Deshaun's strengths.
Well, I mean,
yeah, and I'm going to be in the Miss Ohio pageant next week, by the way.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it is Elijah Moore at his best would be considered a guy with footwork, all right, who can operate in tight spaces and can get some separation quickly, but he's not in his career proven to be a big deep threat. Marquise Goodwin is already 30 years old. He could still run, but he's been hurt a lot. I don't know what else there is, and I don't know enough about Cedric Tillman to be able to say one good thing or one bad thing about him. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones, of course, is going to be an important person from the wide receivers position. But Amari Cooper's a footwork guy. Elijah Moore's a footwork guy. But we don't have a Tyreek Hill. We don't have a guy who, a Roy Orbison guy. I'm now showing my age. Blue Bayou. We don't have that guy. And you can have all the fucking footwork in the world, but if the field is just shortened down and people are crunching in on you, Deshaun Watson is going to end up looking a whole lot like Kirk Cousins and not going to have anybody to throw a deep ball to. So,
I mean, to be fair, outside of Philadelphia, there's probably nobody in the NFL that has a Tyreek Hill outside of Tyreek Hill himself with Miami.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Somebody who is a proven commodity at being a potential game-breaking guy who can beat you one play. You make a mistake, and he can make you pay for it.
That guy's in Columbus, and he plays for the Buckeyes, and his name is Marvin Harrison Jr. So,
yeah. And we never get these players.
We're not going to get that guy.
No.
And even if he's available, we're not going to pick him. But he won't be available because we don't have a first-round pick. So
that's right. I mean, since Watson's return, DPJ, was getting 33 targets over the course of the final 6 games. And he's good in a contested catch situation. What we need is to use that size and good hands, and for the people who are lining up outside to get everybody out of his hair, because right now, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he may catch a pass, but a lot of them are 7, 8 yards down the field. And that's because there's somebody right on top of him, because there's nobody who can break anything open downfield. That's where the problem lies. It's like we're playing within a 15-yard bubble, and it's hard to win that way. It's also hard to score points that way. Everything that's going to happen with the Cleveland Browns, because of the division they play in, if your defense sucks, you're not going to beat the Ravens. I don't care who their quarterback is. They will score 3 more points than you will. No, I'm serious. That's the way they're
No, you're
coached.
right. I'm giggling because it's correct. I mean, that's the way it is.
And the Steelers have, Kenny Pickett. We don't know what he's going to become, but that they're going to late hit our best players and try to injure us. And that Tomlin will do much the same thing and try to just sneak out of games, with 16 to 13 wins. If we can keep teams off the field and stop the goddamn running game, and we say this every year and it doesn't happen, but you have to do that. Now, Cincinnati is a different animal because, Joe Burrow, he can hurt you downfield. And of course, Lamar Jackson has the ability to make big plays. And that's, he can just open up a game real quick. We don't have somebody who has that ability. If the defense can get teams off the field, and I said this last year and it didn't happen again, we're never playing the short field. It never happens. And I don't like the feeling of the way this offense has looked over the last couple of years, trying to go 75, 80 yards down the field. The odds of that happening in a 15-yard bubble isn't great. It's just not great. So that's what I know. Donovan Peoples-Jones could become a very important, valuable, move the flags kind of guy. But man, I would love to see that we would have the ability to get players who can stretch the field. And maybe go ahead.
I was going to say at least one thing is they addressed that. They did address by bringing in Goodwin, by bringing in Moore, by bringing, drafting Tillman. We still don't know what David Bell can do because he really was hurt coming into the year. If he can do anything at all, he's another possession kind of guy though. He's not a field stretcher. But obviously Goodwin looked really great in shorts and t-shirts when they were out there. But it's that's the question. It's like now we have too many receivers. Before we had a whole bunch of receivers and they weren't any good. Now we almost have too many. Who's going to make the cut? Who's not? Who's going to stick around? Whatever. So,
there's still a group of fans online that still want to bring DeAndre Hopkins in.
And
well, I mean,
and then people are creating situations saying, oh, well, Deshaun Watson's going to be upset because they're not bringing, Hopkins. Hopkins is over 30, right? Wide receivers start to tail off. This is the last year for Cooper based on his contract. We know that he will be gone next year. So it's
you got to develop young receivers, and we're not drafting them. That's and CO Dead makes the most ignorant comment of the show and may win the virtual coffee mug of ignorance, saying that we need to trade Chubb. That would be a great idea, buddy. Let's just go into the season with Jerome Ford as our starting running back.
You're only going to get a third rounder and a Mr. Hero gift card.
That's right. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, usually I would say, hey, thanks for your contribution. But in this case, it's a big eat me. It's like you're not even interested in making the team better. You're just trying to draw attention to yourself. It's what I call, look at me, I'm Sandra D syndrome. It's like,
is he ever going to win the rushing title, or do you think that's never going to happen?
It's going to be very hard for him to do it because Stefanski running in these bizarre plays at bizarre times and never really allowing Nick Chubb to be the best Nick Chubb. I mean, just think of what would Earl Campbell have been if he didn't wear down the opposition. Can you imagine if you just put him in and said, okay, you're going to get 16 carries here, Earl, and he's just starting up the engine and you're never getting to the good part? You know, Nick Chubb is like any running back, and he could get hurt at any moment, but he's proven that he has more game-breaking capability in his body than anybody else on the roster, period. It's not even close.
They do want to get him involved more in the passing game.
Well, and I never felt that Nick Chubb was stone hands by any stretch of the imagination, but it's
I don't think he is.
Go ahead.
I don't think he is either.
The thing is, you just had Kareem, who is just really good out in the open field like that. So, you know, it's like you have a fantastic running back, but you have somebody that's basically their specialty is running in the open field in Kareem Hunt. So I think that's the reason why. Plus, it doesn't hurt to give a guy a breather. I mean, you know, the football season in the NFL is ridiculously long now. And, you know, 18 weeks is a damn long time. And you got to have somebody else. And that, you know, that is a concern of you have a lot of unproven behind a fantastic, possibly 1 or 1A running back in the league. But, you know, running backs can fall off like that. I mean, here's a guy that has his career average per carry is 5.2 or something like that. It's over 5.
Yep.
You know, I mean, he's pretty much shown we got a really good offensive line. They finally let Chris Hubbard go and given up on that situation. You know, you got a fantastic running back. You got some wide receivers. You got the quarterback to make the things happen. You got some tight ends. You know, you paid Njoku. You know, now if Kevin Stefanski doesn't screw it up, that seems to be the thing. So,
well, I mean, time tells all tales, and I've never personally felt that when Nick Chubb gets things rolling, that they stay with him long enough to really battering ram the opposition. And it's so important if you're playing in our division, you got to play a little black and blue ball. And if you're not, you know, you're trying to run gadget plays on 3rd and 4th down. It's a real problem. Amsterdam in the spotlight right now, because we move on to the Guardians. There is reason to be worried about Shane Bieber. To be honest with you, his velocity is down 3 miles an hour, and he is, for a lack of a better word, he is now a pitch to contact pitcher. He kind of looks like Kluber when he was 34, that he's trying to outsmart people, but then he gets into trouble when people start figuring out what he's doing, and it isn't his stuff anymore. It's his brain that's working, and the Guardians just can't overcome falling behind in games. It's just not like it was last year even. They just, you know, the pitching on the Guardians, that takes them as far as they're going to go. And the problem is that a lot of these pitchers are hurt. I mean, with McKenzie now on the 60-day DL, and, you know, we've had Quantrill, who's back on the DL. It's leaving the Gavin Williamses of the world and the Bybees of the world to try to give them valued innings. The problem is these are young arms, and Bybee is giving them by and large 5, maybe 6 innings, as is Gavin Williams. And that still leaves us with Trevor Stephan and Eli Morgan and with Xavier Curry and with who's the other one? I mean, Whatever happened to James Karinchak? What happened to him?
He just went bananas, and he's down here in Columbus. They lost his command.
Yeah, I mean,
I can see him coming back up. Logan Allen's going to come back up. I guess there was an article said they reset their roster, and Bieber's going to start the fourth game coming back off the All-Star break. I don't know if that's because they want to leave him available to trade, or are they trying to rest him? That doesn't seem like where he's at in the rotation, but I don't know. It's just the fact that two of your starters, your planned starters at the beginning of the year, aren't available with Quantrill and McKenzie, and with such a young team anyway. They still have a young team. Yeah, but yeah, it is every day when we go to the bullpen, you just don't know what the heck's going to happen.
Well, even a guy like Logan Allen, he's been very successful in minor leagues, but you come up to the bigs and they're fouling off his best pitches. Yeah. And he's running up horrendous pitch counts. And, this guy has 90 to 100 pitches after 4 innings because they just keep fouling balls off. He just doesn't have the put away pitch. And that has been the problem with Guardians pitching this year, is that we lack that dominant pitcher who can just get out of a little bit of trouble by blowing pitches past people, or has enough movement on their pitches to strike guys out, or to induce double plays, which is very difficult when Ahmed Rosario is involved. Because if a ball's hit to the right side of the infield, and Jimenez makes the play and he tosses it, there is no snap throw from Ahmed Rosario. He takes a full windup, and we are missing out on a lot of double plays because of Ahmed Rosario. He's not a good shortstop. He hits well, but he's not a good shortstop. And to be not a great defensive team, not a good offensive team, and to have pitchers who really are Aaron Savale-esque, who, are contact pitchers. They're not guys who are going to mow people over. I don't see how they're going to get any better than what they are. And the amazing thing is, they're as close as they are to 500, and nobody in their division is any good. But what difference does it make? Because even if the Twins fall apart somehow and the Guardians have a little winning streak and they get into the playoffs, who's going to care? They don't have anybody. And it's a shame, because people are going to pitch around Jose Ramirez. And so, Naylor is going to be the inheritor of seeing better pitches, and he's hitting the ball really well. But Josh Bell is still lingering in the 220s, and he's not making consistent contact. And he was supposed to be a guy we picked up for power, as was Zunino, who's long gone. And, and Brennan is a nice ball player, but he's not a power hitter. And, you're looking at an outfield of people that Miles Straw, who hit one ball off the fence this year, and we're supposed to ooh and ah, Brennan, who is a line drive hitter. And, I don't really know where runs are going to come from, how you're going to manufacture runs. And we seem to have gotten worse once they prohibited the shift. It's almost as if defensively we were staying in games with good coaching by moving our players into certain positions. But now pitchers like Shane Bieber, they're just going opposite field on him, and there are holes there, and balls are finding holes, and he's giving up way too many hits per inning pitched, and he's having one bombardero inning where he gives up 3-4 runs. team can't recover from that. So, and there's already rumblings about trading Bieber. And
do you think if they can get a big bat that they would go ahead and pull a trigger on that?
You would think, because
yeah.
he's 28 years old, but he doesn't. He's got another year under contract after this one. See, next year he's going to have less value no matter how well he does, even if he comes back to his normal form, just because he's only under contract through the end of next year. This year is when he's worth whatever you're going to get for him. So I've never seen a pitcher, Hammer. I've never seen a pitcher lose that kind of velocity at his age, and for it to be a good thing.
Do you think it might be due to the number of innings, though? Because
yes, it's what's happened to all their pitchers.
I mean, we've seen it over and over and over again with some of these guys, and it's like, hey, you're like, man, these guys are leading the league in number of innings and stuff. That's fantastic. It means we get through our bullpen, but then they're just beat up.
When was the last time you saw Clase hit 101?
Yeah.
I mean, he's down.
A couple weeks ago, he was in the hundreds, and we were watching the game the other night. But he continues to walk somebody, give up a huge hit. It's never the door is closed when he goes out there. This is not, this is not a done deal when he walks out there.
No, he's working his way through innings to get through innings, and his pitch count's going up. Yeah. And he gives up big innings, and
he's isn't he leading the league in appearances or something like that? Or
that's entirely possible. What I see, the slider doesn't have the snap that it once did. It's staying and hanging up in the strike zone, and people are getting good line drive, solid contact. The ball isn't moving that much. So, as far as the Guardians are concerned, I'm not overly enthused.
We got a weak division, man. Come on.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We got something to cheer about all year, at least. That's a good thing.
Well, it's just like the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers made it to the playoffs and lost to the fucking Knicks, and there is no reason that should have happened, but that people didn't perform as well as they were supposed to. Now the summer league has started, and God only knows the first game. I'm looking at Emoni Bates, and I'm saying, are you kidding me? 18 shots. The guy was catching him and hoisting him. It's like, sit down, son. Grab yourself some bench. And the second game, they're pimping Isaiah Mobley. It's like, please, he's too slow. He's too slow, and he's not athletic enough to make it in the NBA. What you're watching in the summer league is just nothing. It's just nothing. Who's going to win the two-way contracts? That's all it is. Sam Merrill is totally of no use, no value. This was a buddy deal from the Cavaliers front office, and people who know. I don't pretend to know. People who do know that signing a guaranteed one-year contract for Sam Merrill was doing somebody a favor, and it wasn't the Cleveland Cavaliers fan base. That I can tell you. So, and I'm so tired of this. Well, Mobley's brother, that's what he's known as. It's kind of like Stifler's mom. It's like Mobley's brother averaged 21 points with the Charge. It's like,
yeah, but you're playing a bunch of other Joe lunch bags, man. Come on.
What does it mean?
Not to mention they have Pete Nance now.
Repeat?
They have Pete Nance. The other
Pete Nance. He put up 11 points the other night. He hit a few threes. And again, what am I going to tell you?
It's hard to watch those games. I'm sorry.
The summer league is, and, for the Cavaliers, the main thing right now is, have they shored up the bench situation? And they brought in a backup point guard, and is Ricky Rubio really going to be able to play again? Or has the second ACL done him in for the final time. And I really don't know. It was terrible last year. Started out like he was making a comeback, but man, that knee must have really given out on him because he wasn't moving at the end of the year. And you can't win without a bench. And I think more than anything, I think first of all, our coach is not a great X's and O's coach. He's more of a rah-rah kind of guy and a player's coach. Second of all, the rotation issues, we're rid of Jetty Osmond. Thank God at last. I feel like
you're gonna have to find somebody new to complain about. That's all I can tell you. I'm sure they're on the bench somewhere.
They're somewhere. Right now, I'll find them. And Robin Lopez is gone too.
As soon as they traded Osmond, I thought, God, Moo's gonna have to find somebody else to talk about now.
It's what we call a whipping boy, right? But again, Robin Lopez was another one. It's like, I'm trying to guard somebody. I mean, the guy was in ultimate slow motion. He actually looked like the money scene in Chariots of Fire out on the floor. It was not a good thing. Not good.
Like Steve Austin running.
Yeah, exactly. Why did they do that? If they want to say it's speed, why do they slow it down? And the reason is because Lee Majors couldn't run that fast.
There is an actual reason. They actually, a little trivia, they did film it and like speed him up, and it looked like a cartoon. So they they said, let's just make it look like he's just going way faster than everybody else in slow motion. And that's, so, because otherwise it was like, it looked like a Benny Hill thing or something like that.
Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. And, to be honest with you, the core four, as they're being called, Jared Allen gave up last year, and I don't consider him a core to anything until he gets motivated and gets his ass out on the floor and shows that he can game in, game out, week in, week out, and raise his level of play in playoff games, because we've not seen it. The other one, Evan Mobley, has to prove to me that he can actually build himself an NBA body, because he's getting pushed around, and that's not a good thing. But none of these players are in danger, mind you. The whole thing was, with the situation the Cavs are in, with a lack of draft picks because of the Donovan Mitchell thing, and what we had to give up, it's the players that we have contractualized to try to make the bench better. And hopefully Bickerstaff will figure out what players play in a complementary way with one another. We've got Strus from Miami, and to tell you the truth, not so impressed. I watched him play with Miami. He could be wide open. He could be very good, but he can't play a lick of defense. Not a lick. I mean, he's got, feet of clay, and that doesn't help you. He can be a guy who comes off the bench and does some stuff for you, scoring the basketball in short duration, but he will be exposed defensively, and that's a real problem. We also, I'm the other guy we got, Niang, it actually statistically is a better 3-point shooter than Strus is, but another guy who's not going to knock the door over with defense. But what I can tell you is this: from the corner three position, which we used to have a guy that we drafted, and his name was Isaac Okoro, and he was the only man who was standing in the corner of the court, and he couldn't make that shot consistently. Strus makes that shot 40% of the time, 40.1% statistically, and Niang 45.1%, and that's your shortest 3-point shot on the floor. I don't know what you do with Isaac Okoro because he can't shoot the basketball, but at least Isaac Okoro can slash to the rim. It wasn't like Jetty Osmond, and yes, I'm going to continue to badmouth him, that he would just run around like a chicken with its head cut off. I think that what the Cavaliers did was the smart thing to do. You got to improve your depth and figure out how to use the pieces you got and bolster your ability, if you get leads with the core four, to maintain those leads from your bench, because we had bad the bench just had no depth.
Northwestern just fired Pat Fitzgerald.
Say again?
Northwestern, they just fired Pat Fitzgerald.
Who did?
Northwestern.
Why?
Situation of hazing between players, and supposedly he knew nothing about it, but there's been multiple situations of it. Some you can pick up on Friday, but a bunch of stuff like that on it, and people started calling for him. So,
wow.
And and that guy basically bleeds purple and white. I mean, played there, everything else, actually got him to a Rose Bowl. It's a sad thing. So,
yeah. Well, then two things I wanted to say before I get out of here. There are two names, Jamie Foxx and Aretha Franklin. All right. One's dead, one's living. Can we leave Jamie Foxx alone? I really don't, it was interesting. There are videos now of him hitting golf balls when they said that he had a massive stroke, and he's out, moving around, and he's hitting golf balls. And he was using a driver, and I don't mean like Morgan Freeman in Driving Miss Daisy. He wasn't using that kind of a driver. He was actually using one from his golf bag. But can the man live his life and just leave him alone? I mean, do I care what was wrong with Jamie Foxx? Well, I hope he's okay. And whatever the health problem he has or had or whatever, I hope they found a way to curtail it. And I hope he's able to continue his career. And if not, I hope that he has a long life. Aretha Franklin, on the other hand, is quite dead. But she lives on because for 5 years, her estate battle is continuing as worthless relatives try to live off the remains of Aretha Franklin.
Oh, geez. That happens a lot.
No RESPECT. Nothing. This is pathetic.
Didn't something like that happen with Sherman Hemsley, too? I think it took a while after he died for him to get buried. There was some type of dispute or something.
They had to divest all the dry cleaners, I believe is what it was. But
Dynamite!
Actually, it was, now that I think about it, it was actually James Brown that took forever to be buried.
Well, that was the IRS trying to get their last bit of money off of James.
Now, here's the thing about Aretha that you didn't know. I mean, she was the Queen of Soul. You know that. And she was from Detroit. You know that. I was in Flint for almost 10 years. You might not know that.
God bless you.
And there were countless incidents of her bouncing checks all over Detroit and stiffing people. Maybe it made her feel like a natural woman. I don't know. But all I know is I don't know what money they're fighting over. But the thing is, she had a rare form of cancer. And if you saw her at the end of her life, it was a sad sight. She had to know she was dying, but she left 2 wills. One of them was found under a couch cushion. I'm not making this up.
Wow.
And another one was in a locked cabinet. So who do you believe? One was dated 2010, one was dated 2014, and ne'er the twain shall meet. So the brothers are seeking a legal determination about the distribution of the estate. And you know something? I don't want to read about this either. Because the bottom line is that she's dead. And if they really wanted to make money, I don't know what debt she owed, to be very honest with you. But they're going after her music royalties, whatever cash was strewn about underneath other couch cushions, her seemingly never-ending flow of jewelry, and the physical property that she owned, including a large house. That's what it means to be the queen of soul and to be dead.
No, that's how it is for a lot of famous people.
Yeah, it's really too bad. But
it's almost
go ahead.
It's almost as unfortunate as like Casey Kasem dying and then his wife just burying him in Norway, away from his kids.
Well, I didn't want to be cryogenically frozen. Yeah. How does Casey Kasem, and now back to the countdown. Well, how does that happen? And I met Casey Kasem when he was quite alive, and I had no idea that all that shit was going to go down.
This song goes out to all those people waiting on my will to be read.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
Now I got to talk about a fucking dog dying.
Yeah.
Who writes this? The two that I liked best was Casey Kasem doing that. And when I met him, he goes, "You have to promise that you're not going to ask me about that." Okay. And it's like, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to ask that of you. The other one was,
what was your worst moment ever on the, sorry.
Never mind. The other one, God only knows, was Barry White for the United Negro College Fund. Have you ever heard that?
Absolutely.
I have, but it was in a YouTube video.
Oh, for God's sakes. I mean,
it was in the background of a Tourette's guy video, if you know what that is.
A mind is a terrible thing to waste there, Barry. When he was saying, "Oh, baby, baby, oh, baby, baby." I mean, that was about as good as it got. But him trying to read a public service announcement for the United Negro College Fund, it all went to hell in a handbasket. And finally, he's like, "Who the hell wrote this shit?" It's like, thanks. Oh, God. I'm going to enjoy my time here. I've got, in the next 2 weeks, a lot of stuff going on, but I think I'm actually in the free and clear and open tomorrow. So I'm going to just go around to areas and, once I get with all the furniture in the house, one of these days I'm going to go to a place and I'll just say, "Hey, if anyone wants to come out and say hi, come on out and say hi." And none of you will show up because you're not even close to where I am. And that'll be that. But at least I will have made the offer.
You give me enough time notice, I can get there. I got nothing to do.
Yeah, Bronk isn't going to make it, though.
No, Bronk, we can FaceTime him in or whatever the hell.
There you go.
Him in.
All right. No.
David, thank you for joining us. And Hammer Time, thank you. And thanks to the audience for putting up with these intermittent absences. I will do everything that I literally can to get back on Friday. There should be no reason why not. Things are just starting. It picks up and then it kind of dies down. So I think that we'll be able to get something together on Friday. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and I'll see you again on Friday, most hopefully. And until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.